What the hell is this guy thinking? Eileen pulled out the catheter and muttered as she watched Kim Dokja lying down. Fragments of the story were trickling from the bandages. For now, this is the only way. I hadn't wanted to use it. Eileen hurriedly raised her courage, swept up the fragments, and took the pulse of the other arm. Kim Dokja's face was pale, and no warmth could be felt. "Bring more story packs! Quickly!" The people watching ran out of the treatment room at Eileen's cry. Eileen watched the face of the dying Kim Dokja and recalled his last words. "Just let me die for an hour or so." Of course, it isn't really dying. It's just on the verge of dying. I really will go see Kim Nam-woon if I die this time. I will trust you. Understood? Beep, beep. The story stability levels on the patient's stability monitor were dropping sharply. Eileen watched Kim Dokja sleeping with an unknown expression and inserted a new story into his veins. Fortunately, the third stage of Omniscient Reader's viewpoint was connected properly. Eileen had done her work well. By the way, Asmodeus's energy was blazing in front of me. I was in a state of tension, unlike my previous declaration. The opponent was Asmodeus. I felt a bit of regret for using words that were too impressive at the beginning, but now it was too late for regret. Asmodeus finally opened his mouth. "Demon King of Salvation." I nodded with Yoo Jung-hyuk's head. I felt Yoo Jung-hyuk's soul struggling in one corner of the ego, but I forced him to fall asleep. Yoo Jung-hyuk couldn't pop out at this time. "I am the Demon King of Salvation." The use of my true voice consumed an excessive amount of probability, but I pretended to be calm. I deliberately used my true voice in order to not be pushed back by his momentum. The bonus was that maintaining my true voice made me look strong. Asmodeus glanced at me with surprise and asked again, "He is really your incarnation?" "That's right." The unconscious Yoo Jung-hyuk would be furious if he knew this, but I didn't think and said it anyway. There was no better answer in the current situation. At least that's what I thought. "I didn't hear that you have such an incarnation." "Your information network seems to be slower than I thought. This person is my incarnation." Asmodeus had definitely come here to talk with me. The credibility of his words couldn't be determined, but this was the only way for Yoo Jung-hyuk to survive. If he really came to talk, he wouldn't do anything unnecessary like touching my incarnation. Asmodeus didn't seem to accept my words as his energy gradually became stronger. I desperately recalled the information about Asmodeus that I knew. An indulgent madman. A member of the Gourmet Association. He has a slight acquaintance with the underworld of Olympus. The owner of crooked libido. There were a few things that could be of some help, but there was nothing I could use right now. Either way, it would be best to solve this confrontation as smoothly as possible. I raised my senses as much as possible and searched the vicinity for anything that could help me. The only thing that stood out was the small stuffed doll attached to my shoulders. What is this? That jerk Yoo Jung-hyuk actually collected such things? Then the doll suddenly looked at me. The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire is so moved that she has a nosebleed. Wait, surely this doll, the constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire, is rubbing her cheek against you. The doll softly touched Yoo Jung-hyuk's cheek, and I felt it through Yoo Jung-hyuk's body. I was panicked. Why was Uriel here? Asmodeus opened his mouth. I guess the rumors are true if you're not shrinking back behind my status. You became narrative grade in the 10th scenario. I can't believe it's true. I don't know. It might be more than rumors. I pulled the Uriel doll and quickly hid her in my arms. The atmosphere was strange, but it would be difficult if Uriel did something. Asmodeus licked his lips. The story about your tongue seems true. It is to my taste. By the way, how are you alive? I heard from the constellations that you died. I have good luck. You also like having secrets. I hate people who keep trying to pry secrets from me. Is this person your new incarnation? I heard that children are your taste. What bullshit is that? Then my hard work preparing this wasn't worthwhile. Asmodeus smiled at me in a charming manner while looking down at his child's incarnation body. He had the appearance of a pretty child. If Han Myung-oh was right, this must be his daughter. Fortunately, she didn't resemble Han Myung-oh at all. There seems to be some misunderstanding. Many false rumors have spread. The rumors spread about me taking Shin Yu-sung as my incarnation. He understood what I was saying, and Asmodeus smiled at Yu Jung-hyuk's face. Indeed, I can bend my taste if it is this beautiful body. At this point, it was clear that a normal conversation was impossible. I spoke roughly. Stop talking with your true voice. There won't be any incarnations left around me. Why? This is now my industrial complex. I want you to stop killing my citizens. Officially, Gilabat died because of Kim Dokcha, and this became my industrial complex. You are the new owner of the industrial complex. In fact, these messages were actually rising. Of course, I needed a good excuse to stop using my true voice. Asmodeus spoke with a small smile. Yes, I'm sorry. Asmodeus did it half-heartedly, but he was polite when he had a purpose. At least until his purpose was met. Then why did you come for me? It sounds like you already know, right? How should I know? I'm not a prophet. I know you have a similar power to the prophet of Asgard. He was probably talking about Anna Croft. I didn't know how much of my story was spread and twisted. Whatever the rumors, it was clear that now was the time to lay the foundation on this side. Maybe it's because of the Demon King selection. Asmodeus grinned at the answer. It wasn't hard to guess. It was because shortly after the industrial complex had fallen, the following message was heard. You are currently a Demon King candidate of the 73rd Demon Realm. A new scenario is currently pending. Are you aiming for a new throne? Huh. I already have this 32nd Demon Realm. It's pointless to gain one with a lower rank. Then what? I want to help you become a new Demon King. As expected, he said it. Han Myung-oh had told me something similar. The Demon King. He told me to make the 73rd Demon King with my own hands. I thought for a moment before shaking my head. I'm sorry, but I don't need help. I currently have no desire to participate in the competition. I don't think you have the veto rights. You have to participate in the selection as soon as you become a duke. I can survive with my own strength. Well, you might have been lucky until now. Will it continue in the future? Do you think Duke Melodon and Birkin have the same thoughts as you? It was known that Nebula were already attached to them. They were also Nebula hostile towards me. Asmodeus laughed. You need my help. You will die if you refuse. It was unknown who would kill me, but he seemed certain I would die. Fucking bastard! Did he come all this way only to grab my ankle? A small number of constellations are watching your choice. The constellation Prisoner of the Golden Headband is watching your choice. The constellation who likes to change sex is watching your choice. I moved to this location and asked BU to expand the channel. Thus, the constellations were watching my choice. Most constellations felt reluctant towards Demon Kings. My future story would be determined depending on the choice I made here. I took a calm breath and asked, Is your purpose the giant story? Something stirred in Asmodeus's eyes at my words. I'm surprised that you already know about such a thing. It's the only reason why guys like you would cut off their nose in the blink of an eye. I smiled bitterly. A giant story. If the stories I had accumulated so far were in the category of general stories, there was a new field in the star stream called giant stories. For example, things like Olympus's Gigantomachia and Asgard's Ragnarok. By building a small stake in a giant story, the constellations could gain enormous power and probability. If they occupied a large stake, then they would become a huge power. This was why the constellations rushed with fiery eyes every time the apocalypse scenario occurred. The Demon World's Demon King selection was one such giant story. It wasn't comparable to Gigantomachia, but it was large compared to general stories. Asmodeus nodded. You're correct. I need the shares of a giant story. Asmodeus was already a Demon King and belonged to a higher-level scenario, so he couldn't participate in the selection. However, he could help me in exchange for a stake in the story. Originally, I would have refused the proposal. The giant story that could be accumulated through the Demon King selection would become the key foundation for my future fight against the Nebula. If I gave a share in it to the wrong person, it was likely I wouldn't be able to obtain anything. However, Yu Jung-hyuk of the 12th regression had muttered, "At that time, we shouldn't have pretended to support the Demon King Asmodeus." I wanted to grab the collar of the 12th regression Yu Jung-hyuk and ask what he meant, but that person now was only in the 3rd regression. In the end, I had to make a choice. Should I grab the hand of the Demon King, or not? I slowly opened my mouth.